Hope you had a good week. In this week's class, we're going to talk about color correction for show openings, color correction for digital compositing, and multi-layered color correction. So in last week's class, we discussed luminance keying, green and blue screen keying, and for a final look, the reversal film look. So for keying, I hope we touched on some key points to identify when you first get your shots. Color correction affects many areas in the film and television industries. Companies that create opening titles are in high demand. The opening sequence is designed to visually hook the viewer who's flipping through the channels. Openings can range in looks from quite plain to very stylized, and the cost can range from a few $1,000s to over $100,000 in the case of a feature film. Yes, people do judge a book by its cover or dust jacket, worthy of the words on the pages of the book. A show opening is the same. Used to grab the attention of the viewer at the top and the bottom of the hour, to gather the viewer in and get them interested in your program. In Class 2, I mentioned that colors play an important role in human life. Many colors have special qualities associated with them. And for the all-important show opening, where you have 30 seconds to a minute to grab the attention of the remote-wielding viewer, the eye-catching choice is the difference between someone stopping and someone cruising to the next channel. The producer has given me a series of disjointed images that I have the task of creating some eye candy. My skills as a colorist come into play with the knowledge of how to blend these images into a pleasing picture, and it'll probably take me a few tries or versions to offer the producer some choices, but I welcome the challenge. After having a closer look at the images, I'm trying to pick out a palette of common primary and secondary colors. How can I play the contrast to help point the audience to the part of the screen that's important for them to look at? There's a lot of information on the screen, and maybe I can help. Red is the universal color of danger. The human brain associates the color red with blood. This is a happy travel show, and I don't think this color will be much use here. I could use a warm tone, however, to help rebalance a cooler shot. Green is a restive and calm color, perhaps due to its association with greenery of the countryside. I could pick up the greens in the waterfall shot and carry this on. Blue is considered calming, restive, and safe or hopeless. It's a passive color. Although the beach shot here is quite beautiful, it appears cold and a bit hopeless in tone to the other shots, so I might try and warm it up so the sand is a warm tone. Yellow creates a welcome sunny feeling. It's the longest remembered color and most despised because it stimulates both the red and the green cone cells. It's the color most easily seen at a distance. I think that I can use this color as a key focus of attention with the native, and with the use of some color panels tie this all together. White is seen in many cultures as a sign of purity. Nice idea, but I don't think I'll use any here. Black creates an air of sophistication and power. Black is most often used with a negative connotation. I definitely don't want to put any negative twist on this for sure. So I think I have my game plan and I can start to put this together. Now, just as a frame of reference or to do some research, I might have a look at a few projects used by competitors, not to copy, but to see the level of sophistication and where the bar is. Depending on the hour or hours I've been given to do my magic, this helps to give me an idea as to complexity. Hopefully the producers will let me do a number of versions and see what we can get. Now, warm colors always appear closer than colder ones. For example, using warm colors in the foreground of a picture and cool colors in the background enhance the depth. This is a trick cinematographers and art directors will use. I've placed all the clips on the timeline now, and I'm ready to start to do just the color correction. I've chosen the positions, and I'm not the best graphics person in the world, but we're just going to deal with the color aspects here. So here's my first background shot that I'm going to start with. Nice waterfall, nice green. And what I've done is, if you come over here, we'll have a look at the filters that I have on. So what I've done is placed a color corrector here so I can adjust the brightness and the contrast, and then I've got a color correction filter already set for the color green. So I've already qualified the key, so I'm not going to bother showing you that. But what I can do here is just reduce the saturation down until I get it kind of a non-electric looking green. And because this is a background layer, it's the very back of the shot, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of a Gaussian blur with maybe, I don't know, we can try 2 and we'll see how that goes from there. So that's the first level. So I've got color correctors on every level now, and I'm going to be adjusting primary and secondary color. So on the next level, I've gone and sampled the green off these ferns here and created just a panel over here, and then gone through and adjusted that so those colors are similar, just make it look a little bit interesting. And my next layer, we talked about yellow being an in-your-face color. I've selected the native person here, primary and secondary color in there, and what I can do is I've just qualified the yellow, so I can bring the saturation of the yellow up and down. Or with this color corrector, if I invert my selection, I can hold the yellow where it is and bring everything else down so it's less distracting. So your eye is pointed right at the center of the screen. You've got the bright yellow color on the center of the screen, and then you're off. Next level I have is gentleman on the right hand side. This is all starting to look good. I just find he's a little bit brown and a little bit brighter. My focus is to keep everybody in the center of the screen, so I'll go through here and click on his clip. I've got a color corrector there, so what I might do is just bring the brightness down a little bit. I'll bring the saturation down, and I will take a little bit of warmth out of his flesh tone, not a lot, but just try and cool that down a little bit. Maybe bring the mids down just a little bit, so everybody's looking right in the center of the screen. So that's getting there. Next element is this gentleman. Looks great on his own, but again his headgear is a little bit more saturated than what I'd like it to be, so I still want to point my audience right in the center of the screen. So I go to the numeric display. I've got primary color corrector. I've already adjusted that for brightness and saturation, and I'll come down to my 2 controls. I would like to change the color of his headgear a little bit away from red, so I'll try and make it kind of an orangey, and then I will drop the saturation down a little bit, and there's kind of a brownish color, still keeping the native as the center of attention in the middle of the screen. That's looking good. Next we have the beach shot, and beach shot on its own looks great. I'd like to be there myself, but again a little bit too distracting, so I've got primary color corrector on there. I've already set that for the selection of blue. I've gone through and qualified everything, so I have everything from the blue sky to the greeny blue water, so I just want to kind of knock the edge off that, so I'll bring the saturation down this time and just change the color of that and make it a little bit greener. I can even bring the saturation just up a little bit. There, just takes the edge off it a little bit. Still makes it look interesting with the red that's there. The eyes, your eyes are going to the red. Next up we have a shot of a building. Building looks okay, nothing wrong with it, but again, I just like to kind of mute that red down just a little bit. I already have the red qualified, and I can just bring the red down a little bit. So just go over and have a look at the full shot here. So everything's starting to get busy on the screen. People are going to be looking at this and saying, oh yeah, that looks great, what am I supposed to be looking at? So what we're trying to do is make sure that the native is in the lead spot. And then I've added a yellow in here as well, just to try and tie things together. And then the final bit of information will be the titles. And there's the titles. So there you have the whole screen put together. What I can say is there's a drop shadow on the graphics, people's, places, and things. You can see the sun's coming in from the left and causing the shadow on the right. So you could even take this out as far as putting a mask shape over the whole screen underneath the titles, and making kind of a cone-shaped mat, and light up the screen from the left to the right just ever so slightly, so that that all kind of makes that flow together, that the whole scene is lit up from the left going to the right, and then you've got the titles on top of that. The sun hits the titles, causing the shadow on the right, and it should all tie together. But you can see that by having the yellow in the center, and it's a little bit more saturate, and you're being muted around the outside of the screen, that it's drawing the people right into the center, so you can see they're focused right at the center of the screen. That's where your titles are, and you can use the brightness and contrast. You've got these titles are white, so again, an audience's eyes are going to go to the brightest thing on the screen. That's just natural. So you've got everybody pointed into the center of the screen, but then all around the outside you've got all sorts of interesting stuff to look at, but it's not as obtrusive as it was originally. So a visual effects shot is an image that was combined to look as if it were shot that way. We have to be so mindful of this statement. You as compositors have to be a cinematographer on your own. You have to carefully analyze the image and get a sense of how light hits the object in the scene, and make sure they follow with both the foreground and the background. You really have to use your imagination and make it look realistic. Lighting. A mismatch in the direction or the quality of light in the foreground or the background will probably undermine the believability of a composite faster than anything else. Even if the viewer is not conscious of the lighting, they may feel that the image looks phony. If you're shooting blue screen foregrounds outside, shoot the background in the sunlight as well. Now, depth of field. The definition is how much of the image is in focus from the foreground to the background. More depth of field, more area behind the subject is in focus. Less depth of field, less area behind the subject is in focus. Another factor which can destroy the realism of a composite is a mismatch of focus or depth of field between the foreground and the background. Having said all that, we have two pictures to put together. Here is our foreground shot. It's from a studio. You can see the light at the top of the frame. We can see that the light's coming in